Good afternoon and welcome into Apogee Stadium. I go back and looked at the film many times over the last couple days, and what I saw was a team that showed great effort, showed great attitude, and played with great effort and attitude. I can't ask for anything more than that. It didn't turn out like we would hoped or were planning on. We were planning to go to Marshall and coming home with a victory, and that's not going to change as we prepare this week. We're going to concentrate heavily on making sure we start fast, become more consistent, and make sure we finish strong. We go back and look at it, and if you take the first quarter out, it's 13-13. So I'm looking at the positives so I can communicate to our team about some of the things that we did very well. And you look at the second half when we came out and we won 10-6, if you take the second half in terms of what we did, in terms of finishing strong and putting that ball in the end zone in the last series of the game for us offensively. Things that we definitely got to get better at, offensively, is we got to be better on third down. We know that, and eliminating 3 and outs early in the game. I know DeMarcus has to be more consistent. He's got to have better play early in the game. He was missing the defensive structures of the defense, and it was causing him to probably leave the pocket a little bit quicker than he needed to. And he's got to make sure that he's making the right checks and getting the ball where it needs to go. We felt like we left 3 touchdowns on the field and definitely 2 or 3 big opportunity, missed opportunity plays. We felt like we had a couple touchdowns that were there, and he's aware of it. He saw it on film. But he's got to be more consistent, and I expect better play out of him. Obviously, it was a very difficult time. What happened the night before, and I was woken up that morning by him around 7:30, and I was kind of just stirring in bed, lying and thinking about the game and in preparation for it, and get this pounding on the door, and I thought it was my stepson who was there for the game and trying to get us up and say game day, best day of the week, and all that. To have one of my players, sobbing and crying, I'm trying to get out of him what happened, and we were there for probably a good half hour to 45 minutes, praying and him crying and me trying to console him about, this is a great opportunity tonight, but obviously God must have needed an angel and needed some help, and just try to console him after this terrible news and tragedy. But we'll move forward with that. I'm extremely happy with the way we're running the football right now. Jeffrey Wilson is doing a great job with the ball in his hands. We've got to continue to find ways to get him the ball. And Willie Ivory was impressive in the latter part of the game, and when we inserted him there too as well. They bring such a dynamic duo there in terms of what we're trying to do offensively and trying to establish that run game and then find ways to be more consistent in throwing the football. And we have to be more consistent if we're going to give ourselves a chance over the next 5 weeks. Defensively, I'm so proud of our defense and the way they played. You take the first quarter out, and they really played strong. I mean, they did some solid things up front. They were fitting the gaps better. The secondary was involved. Linebackers were making plays. D-line were getting tackles behind the line of scrimmage for losses. There was a lot of positive things to build on. And so I know that if we put this thing together, both offensively and defensively, and then with the strength of our special teams, if we can be a little more consistent there and get guys to step up and help us in the special teams, good things are going to happen over the next 5 weeks. And that's kind of how I see it as we went through the Marshall game and reviewed it and came away with some answers as to what could have happened, what could have been, and understand and explain to our kids how close we truly are. And it's not about their effort and attitude. It's there. You can see it. And I'm very pleased with the way our guys are responding to how I expect them to play, how we expect them to play as a staff, and try to get them to play with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. I'm seeing it. I just want to make sure that we become more consistent, all of us, for 4 quarters. I think that's what we're striving for this week, and that's why the big push has been to start fast and to finish strong. Regarding UTSA, I have great respect for Larry Coker. I remember when he was down at Miami, and I would go down there and visit the University of Miami, and the hospitality he handed out to us at the University of South Florida. And then when he built that program or began that program at San Antonio, he would come into University of South Florida and look at some of the new facilities we had built. So he was trying to do something there. And I know what it feels like to build a program or be part of building a program from the scratch, from the bottom, from nothing, as I was with Jim Levitt, and we built that program at the University of South Florida. So I know the trials and tribulations and all the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride that you go through. So I have mad respect, great respect for Coach Coker and his staff. UTSA has also played a very tough schedule. They played 3 Power 5 teams, and they've had some injuries at key positions that have hurt them. You can see that on film. They're a whole different team that we've seen early in the season as they played against Arizona and last week against Southern Miss. And I know they're hoping to get a few guys back this week in preparation for our game this Saturday. So it'll be a great game. It was always tough. We haven't beaten them yet in the conference. We had obviously the one that kind of hurt us obviously when in trying to get to the Conference USA championship game here in the cold weather. And then last year when we had tied the game up and it was going into the final minutes of the game when that it's just an unfortunate thing that happened with one of our players on a special teams play. But it's been a tight game. Both of us know each other very well. Our players know each other very well. So I expect it to be a very close game. I expect both teams to be hyped up and jacked up for the game, and I know our players well as I know they will as well. So their staff will prepare them well, and we'll do a great job preparing our players for this game on Saturday night.
What was the deal with Marcus? I mean, we talked a little bit about the game, and we weren't real sure as far as what relatively was passed. What was the story?
Well, it's. I mean, how do you wake up to someone, in the middle of the morning? He finally looks at his phone and gets a phone call about, his brother, godson to his mom, had been killed the night before. And how do you handle that as a 19, 20-year-old young man? And knowing here's someone that you grew up with, you spent time with, you played sports with, and all the different things you do, as families do, to know that that's happened. And here's somebody that he talked to the night before, and he was coming to this game. His brother was coming to the game. He had his ticket for him, and all of a sudden you get that news. How do you recover from that? I don't know if at 54 years old I could take that news, night before a game if I was to lose someone from my family. It's hard to deal with, and we try to focus them in on, hey, let's make sure you go out and play for your brother, for your family, and send a strong message that you can handle this. And I think that had a lot to do with it. But there's still some things in the game that you have to do. You have to try to set it aside and try to channel it into going out and playing well. And he just didn't play as well as we had hoped he would. He's so close on a couple throws that would have led to big plays, which would have led to touchdowns. I know that for a fact. The one down the red zone that we felt was a pass interference call to Marcus. If we go to the field, that's where he should be going. It's a touchdown to Carlos. The protection issues were based on when we were an empty set that we knew they were going to bring 6, and it's knowing where to go hot with the ball. And he just wasn't on the same page with what we were asking him to do. So I know that he understands that. We had a really good conversation last night as we watched the film yesterday as a group, that these are things that you have to do as a quarterback, understanding where the protections are and where you need to go with the ball. And he sees that now, obviously. But I think he prepared the way you're supposed to, and he was ready for it. It's just the circumstance that it happened the night before may have triggered a little bit of maybe having to channel it all. I think that was a very difficult situation.
Can you tell us what happened? Was there a car wreck?
To be honest with you, I'd rather not comment on that. I think that's a family matter. I just wanted him to let him know that I'm there for him, and I was there for him, and the whole team is there for you. And we had prayer before the game and sent our thoughts and prayers to his family. And that's all you can do is just be there for a teammate.
You're a very upbeat, excited guy. Watching the game, a lot of the announcers were talking about just running down the sideline. Where did you get that from? Is that just something you've always? Was there a coach you picked it up from, or what?
Well, I hate to admit this, but in high school, my senior year, I was. They have the most best athlete, best looking, all those different things. I had the most spirited. Can you believe that? I mean, I still have that in my high school manual, or annual, I should say. I just have a great passion for life and for people, and have a great passion and enthusiasm for coaching. I knew when I was young, and my dad was one of my coaches as I was growing up in Pop Warner and Little League and in baseball. I knew this is something that I wanted to do. I saw the investment that my father had put into it, and I saw the rewards that the young men, or as a young child, I saw what influence my dad had on other kids, and I just said, man, I want to be like my father. And even though my dad was a retired military, he was involved in the community, which I am. I like doing. I did that in college, and I was during the off season. I coached Little League baseball. When I was at Utah State and Logan, and we went to the WBBA World Series in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I have a great love for coaching, and I have great love for life and passion for life. It's who I am. I don't want to change. I'll never change who I am. Everybody says, well, you got a little bit of this, you got a little bit of that guy, you got a little bit of this guy, and yeah, maybe so. But I'm Mike Canales, and I want our kids to understand and feel my passion and my enthusiasm, and hopefully it carries on and it becomes contagious, and that's what I'm trying to get out of them. It's not fake. It is not. It's who I am. If you talk to any of my ex-players, they'll tell you that's Coach C. That's how he is. I just believe in our players. And to me, I don't see the record. I see another opportunity to play on Saturday and a chance to go get a victory. And I don't look at the scoreboard, in terms of, hey, if we're ahead or if we're behind. It's about getting our players to play the best they can at that moment, knowing that Coach C's always got their back. I mean, Mamba, Jared Lynn, roughs the punter, and it's unfortunate. He's given great effort, and it just happened. He kind of gets nicked, and it kind of gets pushed and loses control. And, he feels worse than anybody. Sure he does. So for him to come off sidelines and me to be, jumping on his butt is probably not the right thing to do. So I know as a player, I didn't like it when I threw an interception. I remember when Bruce Snyder said to me, hey, Chico, why'd you throw the interception? Well, I was being a senior and probably said something I shouldn't have said, but I just remembered I never wanted that as a player to have a coach scream and yell at me. I know I made a mistake, and I'll try never to do it again and learn from it. But I wanted the coach to know that he always had my back, and that's what I wanted our players to feel, that Coach C's going to have our back even through mistakes, and even on good plays and bad plays, I'm always going to be there for him.
Is this a rivalry game, or is it becoming one?
Well, I'm going to take take a line from Coach Levitt and Chuck Amato and Mike Stoops and Dan McCarney. It's not a rivalry game till you win. So obviously they don't like us very much, and they're pretty confident about coming up here and beating North Texas. They've beaten us twice, and they should be. They should be confident. They're 2-0 against us, and so I'm sure that they look at it as, do we like each other? I don't know. I think we like each other. We respect each other. That's the most important thing. We don't fear them, but we definitely respect them, and they have the cards right now because they've beaten us twice in a row. So.
What coach do you feel like has influenced your coaching style most? You've been in a lot of places over 30 years. Do you feel like one person in particular has had?
Well, it's not so much one person. It's kind of, kind of feel like I'm a little mix of some guys. Even though I was with Herm for only a year, I feel I'm a lot like Herm in that player coach, a lot of enthusiasm, love for life. His dad was a military officer, and my dad was in the military for 20 years. His dad military for, I think, 20 or 30 years. So that background's very similar. Chuck Amato gave me confidence. He taught me about confidence, and I'll never forget, how he looked at a game and how he prepared for the game. Jim Levitt taught me toughness, preparation. Those things I looked at. Lavelle Edwards taught me the father-son type relationship with players. Norm Chow taught me, the X's and O's and how to correct and coach and be stern with players. I could go on and on about the guys that influenced my life. Mike Stoops, toughness. I learned toughness from Mike. I learned a lot about defenses from Mike Stoops. Probably learned more about defense from Mike Stoops than I have that's not been around anybody else. Dan McCarney, I learned so much from Mac and what he brought and how he built this program and turned it around to get to win a bowl championship. I can take a little bit from everybody, but people say, and this is kind of what they tell me. They say, and these are guys I respect in this business. That I have a little bit of Herm Edwards in me, a little Pete Carroll craziness, have a little flair for life, and a little bit of our guy at Penn State right now, James Franklin, who and I are very, very close, very similar. We kind of look at each other and kind of smile once in a while because we're very similar.
Trying to get into Wilson a little earlier. You mentioned that after the game. Is that an important way, maybe?
There's no doubt. I'm sure it'll kind of calm DeMarcus down a little bit too. And that's what we were trying to do. And we knew what we were going to get in some certain looks. So we were trying to get DeMarcus to say, we're going to get this look. It'll be easy throw, complete it. Well, the first ball gets batted, So then the second one happens and we miss it. And they did a nice job of dropping 8 in coverage. Coach Heater did a tremendous job in terms of preparing his kids. And so we definitely got to try to get the ball to Jeffrey. We had a couple RPOs on, and the thought was to give it to Jeffrey, not to throw it. but he pulled up and tried to throw it as opposed to giving it. So those things that we talked about last night about how do you get in rhythm? By getting the run game running, going. And then as you get that going, then it allows you to open up some other things down the field, gets linebackers down closer to the box, and now we can take advantage of and hit some of those bigger plays.
What is it about DeMarcus that makes it difficult for him to settle in? It just seems like he's always trying to make a big play, and I know that's sometimes a good thing, but at the same time, he needs to keep it.
Sure, and you hit it on the nail. He's trying to make the bigger play instead of making the right play, and we've discussed that for the last 2 weeks. It's not about making the big play. It's not every play is going to be the Hail Mary at the end of the second half, in the first half, that type of deal. It's about making the right play, and that just comes with missing the spring ball is a big part of it, because those are the coaching points, all the little coaching points that you hear throughout this, through the spring ball carries into fall ball, and then as you're really not in the mix, you're trying to learn. I don't know if it really ever sinks in. So here it is, the opportunity now. I've got to restructure it and reteach him and reboot him type deal to think, let's make the right play, get the short play, and then the big play will happen. So that's what we're trying to teach him right now, and our room is trying to help him too, and as well as Josh and Andrew have done a great job in terms of, look, hey, you're going to get this one, it's going to open up the next one. And I think he's trying to take to that right now, and I think he understands that, and hopefully it'll show up on Saturday.
You've drawn some comparisons from DeMarcus to Philip Rivers, guys like Matt Grothy. What was it like coaching Philip in NC State as a coach, seeing him succeed the way he has at the next level?
Well, I remember when I went there and Norm Chow had left, and Norm asked Chuck, or Chuck asked Norm, where do I go get the next Norm Chow? And he said, well, I don't know if he's the next Norm Chow, but he knows our system inside out. And so he brought me up an interview and got a chance to be in that room. And they put me on the board and asked me a couple questions about pass games, and I was able to, dial out just like Norm does because I knew the system. So when I was able to get with Philip, the first thing Norm told me is, hey, listen, whatever you do, don't change his throwing motion. And so I didn't. The only thing I worked on for 2 years was his footwork because I thought he had 2 left feet. And to this day he'll say that. I sent him out his drill tape from when we were at NC State, sent it to him this past summer, and he goes, Coach, I had really bad feet. And I said, well, Philip, we changed that a lot, obviously. But he's such a hard-working, competitive player. Philip hated to lose. Philip was fun that he would start fights and then walk away from it, that type of thing. He's that competitive, with the DBs, and so he hated to lose. And it was kind of fun to be around him in terms of watching his preparation. He was always in the film room trying to get and prepare for the game. He just had that competitive drive not to lose. And probably the one thing I can say about Philip, and it hasn't changed to this day, is he's a young man that can talk trash with anybody, probably one of the best I've ever been around, and never use a swear word. And that's what's fun about him. It's just he's got that type of personality, and he's so smart. It was funny, we were going in the spring game. I remember my second year there with him. He's going into his junior year. I think it was the second half of the spring game, and I said, Philip, you got it. He looked at me and goes, God, what? And I go, you got it, you call it. And he was out there calling stickers right down the field and drive. I mean, he's been doing that since he was little, so it was fun to be around guy.
The Carthage kids, your 2 wide receivers are starting to play a little bit. You're going to see your whole quarterback this week. Have they started to really, contribute for you guys?
Yeah, we saw Teague Reed, 2 weeks ago in the West Kentucky game. He made a catch on the sideline on the left on a scramble, and we stepped up in the pocket and made the throw out to the outside off a fallout on an all-go. And so we need to see him on the field. They've got to continue to make those plays, but we got to do a better job of making sure that when we do hit the open receivers, and if they happen to be the one, that we make sure he's the one that gets the ball. So it's about spreading out. Just like Darvin Kidsey's made some plays over the last 2 weeks, and we got to continue to get him on the field. But those guys can't get on the field if we're going 3 and out, and so that's what we're working on hard this week. Make sure we stay on the field, move the chains, continue the drive, and when we're consistent running the ball, we move the chains really well.
What is it about those 2 guys that you like so much? It seems like they have a lot of talent.
Well, they have a lot of talent. They're very confident players, and then they exude that when they're on the football field. And then when we're in practice, they smile. And Okie probably goofs around a little bit too much for me right now. I want him to be a little more mature, but that just comes with maturation and time in the program. But, they do both bring a lot to the table. Teague Reed's going to be a really special player. We just got to get some more weight on him. He was at Breakfast Club this morning, and I saw him, and I said, keep eating, man. We need you bigger. We need you bigger. 10, 15 pounds heavier. Obviously, that's not going to happen in 5 weeks. But in, a year from now, hopefully he's 10 pounds heavier, stronger. They have to get stronger because what makes it difficult for some of these guys that are young in the program as they continue to develop and become mature a lot more physically, it's getting pressed and being able to get off the press.
Did you guys take a look at that quarterback, the one that went off to UTSA, their old high school teammate, Blake?
Oh, Blake, yeah. Blake was one of our top 3 quarterbacks. He just committed so fast to UTSA, and he was one of our top 3 guys when we were looking at the quarterbacks, and we just weren't really willing to pull the trigger that fast. We wanted to have him come up here and throw for Coach Mack, and because I went down there and saw him in the spring, was very, very impressed with all of them on that team. So he decided to pull the trigger early. He wanted to make a commitment and get solidified into a program, and that's why he decided to go there.
I had those 2 wide receivers talking a little bit about facing their own team.
Well, we haven't talked much about that. I'm sure that'll come up in conversation to prepare, tomorrow at practice and whatnot. My big focus, like I said last night, was about making sure that we start fast and finish strong, and that was the emphasis last night.
What are those 2 guys like? Are they pretty fun to have around on this team?
Yeah, Oki's trying to teach me a new dance move, in the locker room the other day, and he said, "Coach, when we get our first win, you're going to do that dance." And I'm like, "Okay, Oki, but you got to teach it to me first, and let's go get the win. That's the most important thing." But Oki's probably a little, I don't know what word I want to use. Probably a little more of a character, and T is probably a little more focused in, a little more mature at this time. But they're both bring a lot to the table. They're fun to be around, and it's funny because where one goes, the other goes. And I don't have to say, "Hey, T, where's the Greek?" Oki's always with them. They're always together. So.
Can you kind of see why that team was so successful in high school?
Oh, there's no doubt. They had some exceptional players. I went down there and saw their spring ball, and I told Coach, I said, you should win state title. And sure enough, they did. They probably had 6, 7 Division I players on that football team, and they had some young kids that were really exceptionally. They were really good players.
The interesting thing too is you guys' 2 punters really become a bit of a weapon. You had the one that was down and the one that really kind of helped you a little bit later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a little bit of a different situation. You got the rugby style kid and the traditional soccer. How has that all developed for you guys and made that so successful?
Well, Coach Perry's done a great job with working with those our kickers and our punters, and then obviously Thomas Sheffield, our graduate assistant coach, who works with those guys on a daily basis. It's such a fine-tuned machine in terms of what I look at it, but it's such a science, and these guys are in. I leave late at night, and then Tommy and Chef are in there, and they're breaking down the film. They're looking at these guys. They're looking at their steps, and and Tommy. Tommy's trying to explain to me why Trevor was pushing the ball a little bit on the right hash, and why was he pushing. And he explained to me in a golf, and I could understand the golf terms because I do like playing golf, obviously, when we get a chance. But he was explaining to, and it made sense when he was trying to explain to it, just demonstrating the kicking. I couldn't figure out what he's talking about. When he put in golf terms, I got it. So, but I think those guys have done a good job of prepping these guys, and they worked on it all summer. I know that, and they prepared well through the fall. And now we're seeing the fruits of the labor.
Do you know going into the game what situation you're going to use which kid in?
Yes, we have a pretty good feel from what yard line it's at, where we'd like to do it, and as opposed to what they're doing in terms of punt returning, what they like, what terms they like, and we try to obviously counter some of the things they do, so we have something that works against it.
You said you knew at a pretty young age you wanted to coach. Was there a particular memory or instinct that they kind of clicked and said, this is what I want to do?
I knew at a young age I wanted to be involved, but I think when I was coaching Little League Baseball in Logan, Utah, that first summer, and the team I was coaching was the Yankees, and I don't think we won 1 or 2 games, but I loved the opportunity to be around kids in terms of helping them develop. And then as I watched them all grow, and be honest with you, before I went to BYU, I had to take some other classes before I go as graduate assistant, so they talked me into coaching a Pop Warner team that fall. And those kids I coached in Little League were up older, and we won the whole thing in the state of Utah, so that was kind of fun. But I knew kind of then that was where my life was going to lead me. It was coaching, and I wanted to do that. And then a couple years later in the baseball, we ended up going to the WBBA World Series of whatever that district was in Jacksonville, Wyoming. I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to coach. I wanted to help influence young men's lives and help them in a way that would help them to become successful. Those kids that I ended up coaching in that Pop Warner League team that went out 8-0 went on to win 2 state championships.
What's the story with the wristband?
It's, some that know it's Coaches for a Cure. My wife has multiple sclerosis, and it's just trying to bring awareness to the disease that's out there, and has inflicted a lot of both men and women and young children as well. And I always keep it close to me. And I was going through some stuff the other night because mine had actually broke before the season started, and I couldn't find the other ones. Because I have a bag of them. And I finally found I was trying to find something, and I realized, oh, there they were. And so I wanted to get it back on and just, bring awareness to it that, it's something that needs to be addressed. And if I can do that in a role as a coach, that I want to do that. We did that at South Florida. They had a special day at South Florida when we played Miami that day, where our guys wore orange for the game, wore stripes or orange wristbands or whatnot to bring awareness to multiple sclerosis. And it's something that my wife is fighting, and she's a trooper. She ran a marathon after being diagnosed with it. And so it's something that's in our daily lives. When I think things are bad, I think about what my wife is going through and what all those are afflicted with. Any disease, whether it's multiple sclerosis or whatnot. You know, it's things aren't so bad when you look at it that way.
Remind me, what's her first name?
Carol.
Carol, that's right.
You talk a lot about North Texas being especially special to you.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this place so close to your heart?
You know, when you put yourself into a program, when you put yourself into a community, when you put yourself into the university, you become a part of it. It's who you are. I never worried, like I tell our players, don't worry about the name in the back, it's worry about what the name's in front. And so I try to live my life like that. Is here, I want to be a great ambassador for this university. In whatever role it is, whether it was the offensive coordinator, whether it was an interim head coach 6 years ago, or now as the interim head coach. My interest is not Mike Canales. My interest is being the best I can be for this university. And if my role is to be the interim head coach and being the ambassador for this university, I want to do that. And so when you give something like that, I'm not looking to receive anything. I just want to be able to show people how much I truly care about this place. And then the players that have gone through this program, the Derek Thompsons, who I consider like my son now, you know, he's a guy that has my back. I know I can pick up the phone and call him on a bad day, and you know, he can talk to me about it, and he can call me on a bad day. And the guys that have gone through this program, the guys that have texted me and called me when the change happened about go get him, Coach C, and then, you know, to come on the Eagle Walk and have somebody have lock the gate T-shirt on brought me to tears, you know. So I just have a great love and appreciation for this place, and it'll always be special in my heart. This is my home, you know. This is when I go somewhere, I'm all in, and I want to live my life that way, and that's what I've been here, and then I've given it everything I've got here. Appreciate it, guys. Have a great day.